camera's rolling. I like the danger in it. The heart pounds. It defies logic. It's thrilling to me.
Showtime Championship Boxing is back. Our first telecast of the new year. It features one of the most anticipated junior featherweight bouts.
Leo versus Fulton. It is a hot fight.
January 23rd is going to be fireworks. He's the champion. He's coming to fight. I'm coming to fight. We both have a chip on our shoulder. We both have something to prove.
Fulton is a good fighter. But, you know, I'm looking to prove something January 23rd. I'm world champion for a reason.
Of course, you know, the original fight was with Stephen Fulton, but you performed really well against Tremaine Williams. Now that you have this fight again, do you have any nervousness?
Not at all. I've been working to fight Fulton since May or June, so come fight night, it'll be a good fight.
It's a brand new year, but Showtime Championship Boxing is kicking things off with a tremendous triple header to start 2021. Hello, everyone. My name is Luke Thomas. I am one half of the Morning Combat duo. I am from CBS Sports as well as Showtime, and I'm joined by my partner in crime, Brian Campbell. Hey, BC, how are you, buddy?
Oh, fired up to get back to the box, so to speak. We're with you from our Jersey City studios here at Morning Combat, but obviously what's going to take place Saturday, a triple header from the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. A matchmaker special. You know, hardcore fans know how great this was put together. The 122-pound division going to be on full display on Saturday. I can't wait.
Yeah, no mistakes to be made here. This will air on regular Showtime. I know I have the pay-per-view here on my laptop, but it will be on regular Showtime. Triple header, as we indicated, 2 bouts in the super bantamweight division, but an opener, of course, at lightweight. Let's talk about the start of the, well, I should say the top of the card, the premier fight that we have in this event. It is the main event. It is Cool Boy Steph from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, taking on Angelo Leo. Set it out for us here, BC. What do we know about these two, and why is this fight, if you look at the odds, super, super close?
Well, I don't think you have to go any larger than just saying this. Like the 122-pound division, super bantamweight, junior featherweight, whatever you want to call it, it's on fire at the moment. And the good news for American boxing fans, at least, is there's some big names U.S.-based to get behind in this moment. These two are one of them there. You got Angelo Leo coming in unbeaten with the championship that he won last August in the bubble there at Mohegan, defeating late replacement Tremaine Williams. Why was there a late replacement? Because Cool Boy Steph, Stephen Fulton Jr., contacted COVID-19 3 days before the bout in Mohegan. And Luke, this was a potential daunting turning point in his career. He's been very honest and emotional, saying, I was very honest and emotional after that. I thought I missed my opportunity, but it came back around from him. These are two of the top fighters in this division, both in the top 10. They're separated by birth 2 months apart, basically the same height and reach. This is going to be a fantastic fight on Saturday.
And they're very interesting personalities as well. Let's start with Leo, the champion, one of Mayweather's guys. Is that right? What does that really mean when someone says he's sort of a Mayweather protege? In real terms, tell me what that means.
Well, you know, Mayweather's a promoter after his great career as a fighter, and he's done a really good job at picking out, Gervonta Davis being one of them, who he sees from a young age and puts stock behind. And Leo is a tough fighter. Born and bred in Albuquerque, fights out of Las Vegas these days, an incredible body puncher, an aggressive guy who goes after that. El Chinito is the nickname, Luke. Is that a manly nickname?
Yeah, little boy, something like that.
Well, he fights like a man in there, as we saw against Tremaine Williams. Certainly, going to the body is his calling card up to this point. But one thing I've liked about what Leo has said, I have not begun to show all the angles, all the facets of my game. Luke, you have to believe, entering what is the toughest fight for him to date against Stephen Fulton, even though Fulton's the challenger in this case. He's coming in as the betting favorite. He's coming in as the guy maybe people are putting some future stardom around. It's Leo's job to keep his title, though, and dig in. When you put two guys together with this much at stake, a defining early fight in their careers, I mean, you have to expect fireworks at that point.
And very quickly, I know you spoke to Stephen Fulton Jr. That interview is up on the Morning Combat YouTube channel. What was the biggest takeaway from that conversation?
Just that he understands so much about this sport, the fight game, his potential as a brand and as a great fighter. He comes from Philly, comes from an area in West Philly that he calls the bottom. So he's been to the bottom. He's prepared to go for the top. he says in the end, it may have been a blessing in disguise, this whole COVID break, everything that he went through to build that fire up inside of him. He can box, he can brawl. He may have to do both in this one. I can't wait to see.
Yeah, we'll see. By the way, 3 titles up for grabs, but the one that is not interim in the main event in the WBO. All right, so let's go now to the Mohegan Sun with announcer Miguel Flores.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the Mohegan Sun here as Premier Boxing Champions presents our official weigh-in for tomorrow's exciting night of boxing action. It is all brought to you by TGB Promotions, Mayweather Promotions, and Showtime. We will open the telecast tomorrow night live on Showtime at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. We will begin our weigh-ins with 12 rounds for the interim WBA World Super Bantamweight Championship. It is brought to you in association with King's Promotions. First up to the stage, fighting out of Los Angeles, California, with a record of 16 victories, 9 coming by way of knockout, and no defeats. Coming to the stage, Vicious Victor Pasillas. .122 on the dot, 122 for Vicious Victor Pasillas. And now coming to the stage, his opponent, undefeated, 17 victories, including 11 by knockout. Fighting out of Muskegon, Michigan, the rising super bantamweight, Rais, the Beast Ali. $121.6 for the Beast Ali. the record of 14 victories with 7 knockouts and only 1 lone defeat. Fighting out of Orlando, Florida, please welcome Justin, the $1 Million Man, Paldo. $138.6 for Paldo, 138.6. And now we bring to the stage with the record undefeated, 12 victories, including 10 coming by way of knockout. Fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, the interim WBA World Lightweight Champion, Rolando Romero. 134.2 for Romero, 134.2. Tomorrow night, opening the telecast live on Showtime. 12 rounds for the interim WBA World Lightweight Championship. Justin, the $1 Million Man, Paldo, taking on Rolando Romero. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now set from the Mohegan Sun for our official weigh-in tomorrow night, brought to you by TGB Promotions, Mayweather Promotions, and Showtime. This bout will be 12 rounds for the WBO World Junior Featherweight Championship. Introducing first with the record of 18 victories, 8 coming by way of knockout and no defeats. Fighting out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the #1 ranked contender by the WBO, Stephen Cool Boy Steph Fulton Jr. 122 on the dot. 122 on the dot for Cool Boy Steph. And now coming to the stage with a record of 20 victories, including 9 by knockout and no defeats. Fighting out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, defending his WBO Junior Featherweight Championship. Please welcome Angelo El Chinito Leo. 121.4, 121.4 for Leo. This is our main event tomorrow night live on Showtime. 12 rounds for the WBO World Junior Featherweight Championship. Stephen Cool Boy Steph Fulton Jr. taking on the champ, Angelo El Chinito Leo.
And there you have it. The weigh-in's now complete. Everyone made it. Looks good. Everything is official. Nothing left to it but to fight. Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell from Showtime and CBS Sports. We're the hosts of the Morning Combat Podcast. All right, let's get to some of the analysis of this card if we can, BC. We just saw the main eventers there. Let's talk a little bit about what we know from them. If you actually look at their records, they are highly accomplished. That's the reason why this fight is good. However, could you call them power punchers? Less than 50% of their fights have ever been gone by the way of stoppage. Of course, they're both undefeated. Could this one go a little long?
I think it will. I think you look, they're not one-punch knockout artists by any means. In the last 60 scheduled rounds for Angelo Leo, he's fought 59 of them. He's a volume puncher. He's great at going to the body. I think for schoolboy Stephen Fulton, he's that kind of tweener in a way. He can box, he can bang. He told me heading into this fight, he sees this more as an action fight than a pure boxing match. So we're going to get the excitement we're going to see. But yes, expect this one to go late. Expect this one to be competitive. I can see ebbs and flows back and forth because there's so much hunger, and I do believe they are very evenly matched. The odds makers prefer Stephen Fulton. Does he have a brighter future? Some people believe right there. Fulton himself said more or less, look, I think I'm faster than him. I'm sharper than him. I got more dog than him, on and on. But we're going to find out. This is the true litmus test for a guy in Stephen Fulton who we've known about Cool Boy Steph for a while. This is that real step-up moment. You certainly like his story and his opportunity of getting this after losing it just days before. Now it's time to put that story behind us and focus on what this fight's going to look like.
You mentioned the odds makers. For the folks who may not be aware, it depends where you go to look for it. But more or less, what you find is that Stephen Fulton Jr. is around a minus 160 favorite, give or take.
That's a flip of a coin.
Yeah, Angelo Leo plus 130. Do you agree with the odds?
I do. I certainly like Stephen Fulton's speed, versatility. I love a lot about that. But you're going to have to get through a guy in Angelo Leo who's big for this division, who certainly can go in there and grind with you. I'd like to see Leo do more than just bite down and dig in. He's going to have to figure out how to make the adjustments, how to box and counter what Stephen Fulton does. But yes, skill for skill, there's reasons to like Stephen Fulton. But as we talked about heading in, Luke, whether it's their size, whether it's their date of birth, these two fighters are so evenly matched heading into this one that you see why the odds makers have it basically a flip.
Okay, true or false? Winner of this fight can rightfully claim to be the very, truly best, undisputed number one 122-pounder on earth.
It's going to depend on what you like. They are in that conversation, and to review the four-belt layout of this division, Luis Neri is the WBC champion, and we know the power puncher that the Mexican brings right there.
We saw him on the Charlo doubleheader.
Absolutely. You have Angelo Leo with the WBO strap, and you've got Muradin Akhmadaliev with both the WBA and IBF title. Won those from Danny Roman in an absolute classic to kick off 2020. Danny Roman's still a power player in this division. The problem with MJ Akhmadaliev, Luke, is we haven't seen him again. He did not fight through the quarantine. He currently has no plans to come back at this point with all of the COVID-19 restrictions out there. Look, some fighters going out of their way to come back. Other fighters in other countries are going through different things. But Brandon Figueroa, also a big player here, and we saw him get the WBA interim strap. The winner of this one is going to take a big step forward because of the fact both are ranked in the top 10, both are unbeaten. This is a very high-quality win for whether Leo or Fulton ends up victorious.
It's sort of a minor storyline, but I think it is worth exploring that Philly, which has one of the best traditions in all of boxing, certainly for East Coast cities, they don't currently have a undisputed weight class champion. They'll get an opportunity here. What's the story there with Philly? Like, it's just a natural part of turnover? What do you
Well, 2020 just happened to turn out to be a bad year for Philly, right? The guy that we both love, Julian J. Rock Williams, lost his pair of titles to Banana to kick off, to Rosario to kick off 2020. You also had Tevin Farmer losing his title at 130 pounds. The great Danny Garcia, who's won titles in 2 divisions, stepped up in class. That big pay-per-view against Errol Spence Jr. for 2 of the 4 welterweight titles. He came up empty. Obviously, this city has such a reputation and history with boxing. I mean, look, there's no easier to understand terms in the sport than the idea of a Philly fighter and West Philadelphia born and raised. Stephen Fulton Jr. certainly in that class, but yes, he has an opportunity on Saturday night to kind of be the class of the city for the moment and maybe stand up on top of those library stairs next to the Rocky statue and hold up the only title at the moment in this way, you know, in this great city, in this sport. But
maybe go to the Frazier statue. You can leave the Rocky one alone there. That's just my personal opinion. Last thing about this. Do we know why Fulton wears the cowboy hat? What is the story there?
I don't know that backstory.
And the reason I bring that up is because I actually looked it up and I could not find an accurate answer. I was wondering if you knew.
I did not know. I do know that the nickname Cool Boy Steph, he gave it to himself. And where some people come from, there's no such thing as giving yourself a nickname. But Luke, if you can back it up and start on the unbeaten run he's had entering the biggest fight of his career, I think you might be allowed to do that.
All right, so also on this card, this will be the co-main event, also at 122 pounds, so super bantamweight, Rais Aleem taking on Vic Pasillas. Now, you were telling me off air, you're a big, how would you describe it? Big believer in Vic Pasillas. Something about him catches your eye and attention.
Well, look, first of all, it's his confidence. It's incredible how confident this guy is. But he's also, in some ways, come out of nowhere lately, but in some ways had been hiding in plain sight all along. And what I certainly mean by that is he had a 3-year gap from 2015 to 2018 where he didn't fight at all, where he was working as a personal trainer. And he said, you know, it was more of a boxing business thing. He didn't trust anybody. He blamed himself. It was tearing him apart. He was working a day job, Luke, as he watched his friends that he came up with in California boxing, Jose Ramirez, Jojo Diaz, Gary Russell, raise world titles. Yet this guy, Vic Pasillas, had a real reputation in the gym, spent a lot of time at the Wild Card Gym in L.A., where, you know, he got time and saw the Paulie Malignaggi's, the Manny Pacquiao's, the professionals around there. They respected him. He built up a reputation, but it wasn't until his TV debut in September. He fought an unbeaten Ranfis Encarnacion. He got a big, impressive stoppage win. And then he took to the microphone afterwards. And it was one of those, if you don't know Vic Pasillas, you will know him now when he stepped up and said, you know what I'm here to do? I'm here to clean out the division at 122. And oh, by the way, then I'm going to move up to 126 and clean out that division. And then 130 is going to be calling. That is a lot to say when you're a 28-year-old fighter who's just making your television debut. But there is a large amount of confidence in this man. He's a southpaw. He's going up against an equally hungry and dangerous Rais Aleem. And you look at what's at stake here. It's hard not to back the guy who's coming in saying all the huge right things and who has that look in his eyes that he may know something, right, that the rest of us don't about himself.
Real intensity on the scales there for the weigh-in as well. One thing I would add here, southpaw versus orthodox. Now, I don't want to overstate the importance of something like that, but you know as well as I do, sometimes when you get that, it can create for some interesting possibilities for offense, a little bit more action, a little bit more dynamism in play, although Aleem has faced a series of southpaws prior to.
And Aleem is a very interesting fighter from this standpoint, is he's starting to look at 17-0 like a very legitimate prospect in this division. But he's 30 years old, Luke. You're talking about a late starter to this game. He worked at a grocery store from ages 20 to 26. You know, a man after my factory town heart. I did some time in the grocery store scene. Only he's turned this around, and he stopped his last 6 opponents. Luke, he was the original scheduled opponent last August for Tremaine Williams on the undercard of the second time the Fulton-Leo fight was scheduled to happen. As we know, Fulton caught COVID-19. It was Tremaine Williams that got the offer to step up, but Rais Aleem has been around this division for a while as a guy to look out for. He's certainly in this co-main event going to get a very big opportunity to make a large statement, but against the southpaw, will that bring out the lion? And will that bring out the beast, in Rais Aleem? Will the counter of the stances tend to produce more action? You're going to have to see a good fight. Both are predicting fight of the night. I think Pasillas went as far as saying fight of the year, Luke. Do you take those threats seriously? Because I'm buckled up and ready.
I got to tell you, the odds makers, just one more time for folks who might be interested in this, not necessarily as a, remember, the odds can often be a way that the odds makers, what they're trying to do is just encourage betting. It's not necessarily the most accurate reflection of who is to be favored in as much as they are. But I have to tell you, when was the last time you saw a boxing main card where you had 2 fights, main and co-main, and both of them, all 4 fighters were in the plus or minus 100 range? We talked about the range for the main event. Listen to this. Vic Pasillas, minus 160. Rais Aleem, and again, it will vary depending on where you go, about a plus 140. I cannot recall the last time I've seen that.
No, this is a matchmaker special. This is, a hardcore fan's dream in terms of the great matchmaking. And really the focus on a division at 122 pounds that, look, I mean, it's been a long time. We had some names in recent years, the Carl Framptons, Leo Santa Cruz was a world titleist at 122. You certainly can go back back to that great time when it was Morales, Barrera, Marquez, Pacquiao that populated those divisions. But there's a real turnover right now. These guys are evenly matched on Saturday. You're going to get a better knowledge of who's coming out. And to follow up on Vic Pasillas, never been past the 6th round. Talks a big game, but if he gets tested here against Aleem and he gets dragged somewhere, he said he was quoted as saying, Aleem, nothing special. All right, nothing special. I've seen it before. Well, if this goes past the 6th, goes into those late rounds, we're going to find out what Vic's made of.
And then last but not least, your opener on the Showtime card. By the way, 9 p.m. in the East, not on pay-per-view. Don't mistake it. Just regular old Showtime. 9 p.m. in the East. A 135-pound lightweight fight. Rolando Romero, who we've seen at the Mohegan Sun. We'll talk about that in just a second, against Justin Paldo. Let's talk about Romero for the time remaining here. Okay, I saw his last fight in the bubble there in Mohegan against Marinez. It was controversial. What happened?
To say the least. Jackson Marinez was an unbeaten guy, a pure boxer coming in there. And if you don't know who Rolly Romero is, you need to get woke. Just 25 years old, 12-0. Luke, talk about fighting with a damn chip on your shoulder. That is Rolly Romero, believes in his power. What happened was he went in there against a pure boxer. From our vantage point, from our eyes, it looked like he got solved. Was he exposed? It's really going to depend. We thought, the Showtime official scores thought that this was a setback for Romero. What we ended up seeing in the end, though, Luke, was a victory for him. All 3 judges favoring him in the end. A little bit controversial. Romero was not happy about the criticism he got after. He was willing to run back a rematch that night just to prove people wrong. There's a little bit of a referendum here on Rolly Romero, a guy who came to the sport late, has a background in judo, but he didn't really start taking boxing seriously until 17. He's got great power. He thinks he's the biggest puncher below 147 pounds in the sport.
That's a big claim.
But and Luke, he's trying to get into beefs, by the way, with Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney. He wants every ounce of the smoke. He may be calling up Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes for all we know. He wants all the smoke here. But this is a little bit of a referendum on Saturday. He's got that WBA interim title at lightweight. He's going to have to prove to us once again that he is the real deal.
He has a 4-inch reach disadvantage. What do you know about his opponent, Justin Paldo?
Justin Paldo, can I like the $1 Million Man nickname? I mean, everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man, Luke. He said that's pretty bold in what you're saying here, but he's a guy who can box, he can punch, he can do both. He's coming in there, and I like his attitude at the very least. He believes he sees through Romero. He says a guy that believes in his power, but a guy that's just basic and comes forward. If you're going to beat Rolly Romero, you're going to have to bite down and stand in there. But can he follow the Jackson Marinez plan from the standpoint of using boxing, using angles to try to offset what Romero does? You could end up seeing a Bull and Matador matchup here. And Justin Paldo, a lot of confidence coming in. Big opportunities, just 1 loss in his career.
There you have it, folks. Hopefully that gets you ready for tomorrow's big night at the Mohegan Sun in Uncasville, Connecticut. Showtime Championship Boxing returns 2021. Of course, this is the first card of the year. As a reminder, 9 p.m. in the East to get things going, a triple header, and the folks down there, Morrow and Al Bernstein and everybody else, will talk you through tomorrow night's fights. That's Brian Campbell. I'm Luke Thomas. We're the hosts of Morning Combat. You can check us out on YouTube at 1 p.m. today in the East, and that's it. Nothing left to it but to enjoy the fights themselves. So for everyone here, and enjoy the fights tomorrow, take care.
Showtime Championship Boxing is back. Our first telecast of the new year. It features one of the most anticipated junior featherweight bouts.
Leo versus Fulton. It is a hot fight.
January 23rd is going to be fireworks. He's the champion. He's coming to fight. I'm coming to fight. We both have a chip on our shoulder. We both have something to prove.
Fulton is a good fighter, but I'm looking to prove something. January 23rd, I'm world champion for a reason.
Of course, the original fight was with Stephen Fulton, but you performed really well against Tremaine Williams. Now that you have this fight again, do you have any nervousness?
Not at all. I've been working to fight Fulton since May or June, so come fight night, it'll be a good fight.
When the camera's rolling, I like the danger in it. The heart pounds. It defies logic. It's thrilling to me.